Hello and welcome to World Insight with Tian Wei, coming to you from Beijing on CGTN. Coming up on today's program, it has been 20 years since Hong Kong's return to China, but Hong Kong's development has not been without challenges. So how can the people of Hong Kong work for their prosperity in the years to come? We're going to ask that question. One Hong Kong woman who have been working very hard is Annie Wu, who established the Ford joint venture company in China. We're going to hear her story as part of our series, Trailblazing Hong Kong Women. What can the young people of Hong Kong today learn from her experience? We begin today's program with the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. In the past 20 years, Hong Kong has seen both development and prosperity, as well as controversy and sometimes even crisis. We see people from mainland go to Hong Kong seeking opportunities, and many Hong Kong people head in the opposite direction to tap into the vast mainland market as well. At this critical juncture, let's take a look back and a look forward.
A first time for President Xi Jinping to inspect the PLA Hong Kong garrison. She arrived in Hong Kong on Thursday to attend celebrations for the city's 20th handover anniversary and the inauguration of the Hong Kong SAR's fifth-term government.
After 20 years of Hong Kong's return to the motherland, the practice of one country, two systems has been universally acknowledged as a success. Of course, we've encountered some new situations, new problems, and new challenges in the process.
President Xi has more than once stressed the central government's commitment to the one country, two systems principle during his first day in Hong Kong.
It is not horrible to have problems. The point is to figure out some ways to solve the problems. When we overcome the difficulties and solve the problems, we can push the practice of one country, two systems forward.
The past 20 years have witnessed Hong Kong's transformation from a British colony to a special part of China. Outgoing Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR, Leung Chun-ying, believes Hong Kong is benefiting from the one country, two systems principle.
We obviously have the benefit of one country because we're part of China. But we also have the added benefit of practicing, so to speak, the other system. And this other, whether it's the judicial system, whether it's the market system, the economic system, or the legal system, are more similar to the systems practiced by most of the countries in the international community. And so we could bring this to bear for the benefit of both Hong Kong, China as a whole, and foreign countries.
In the past 20 years, Hong Kong maintained its competitiveness as one of the most important financial hubs in the world. 2017 is seeing a shift of government in Hong Kong, and the incoming chief executive, Carrie Lam, is quite clear about her mission.
My first task is to help people of Hong Kong to see that a closer relationship with the mainland of China actually contributes to Hong Kong's continual prosperity and stability.
Hong Kong is indeed facing multiple challenges, but both the Hong Kong SAR and the central government of China are confident about a prosperous future of the city.
For more on the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China, join us in Beijing, Yang Xi, Senior Research Fellow at the China Institute of International Studies. Also joining us in Hong Kong, Dr. Honorable Priscilla Lang Mei-Fang, Legislative Counselor of Hong Kong SAR, and Professor Richard Hu, who is the head of the Department of Politics and Public Administration at the University of Hong Kong. I want to welcome the three of you on the eve of the return Hong Kong to China 20th anniversary. First of all, I'm sure for the two of you right now in Hong Kong, it feels quite different for those of us here in Beijing. What has been that 20 years meant? Let's go to Dr. Lang first.
In the past 20 years, we actually have experienced a lot of historical changes. We have managed to make a lot of achievements as well as face a lot of challenges. But usually the challenges have been fully reported, while the achievements have not been mentioned as often as it should be. And I would like to take this opportunity to say that, in fact, Hong Kong really made a fantastic success of one country, two system. And it meant a lot to the world because it's really one of the unique system in the world that a country may allow a region to adopt a completely different system from the mainland. Hong Kong actually, with the total support of the mainland, we managed to experience and survive under all the challenges like the Asian financial crisis, the financial tsunami in 2008, and also the internet bubble.
I see.
Many people mentioned about we have housing problem, we have youth problem. I think we do, but it cannot undermine that actually Hong Kong has made fantastic improvement in terms of welfare, housing, as well as many of the facilities in terms of public health, etc.
Well, one can tell Dr. Lang is very eager to explore about the 20 years within just a few minutes. So we're going to wait a little while before we let you go into details about some of those. Let's go to Professor Hu. Really, a lot of challenges. How much score would you give Hong Kong?
I want to echo Priscilla's point about the achievement over the years have been underreported, especially to international medias. Actually, for me, it is unprecedented experiment for China and Hong Kong to have such a unique arrangement under one country, two system formula. The formula successfully managed the return of sovereignty of Hong Kong to China, and secondly, it is I think a reasonably successful governance model for the territory's economic prosperity, and also we have very successful public policy achievement in many areas. And also, as Priscilla just said, we have overcome the tremendous difficulties, economic crisis, financial crisis, and also public health challenges. Of course, that doesn't mean we have everything's bright. We have new challenges, emerging problems we have to deal with in the next years or next decades to come.
Both of you almost give me the same version of answers. Therefore, I have to go back to the two of you to let you provide a little bit more insight than just a general description of what happened and what had been achieved. If I could go to you, Professor Hu, about what exactly is the crystallization of one country, two systems? What do you think are some of the lessons to be learned about 20 years and likely potential to be achieved as a result of this very unique system? I don't want a generalization. I just want something personal from you as an academic.
To me, as academics, I see there's a big challenge about the what that one country, two system formula means to different people. I think obviously there's no consensus of understanding among the different sectors of societies, and somebody emphasized about the high autonomy part of this formula. The other people may say that we are still within the one country framework. So there's a lot of debate about how we can balance the one country and two system in this conceptual framework.
In fact, in the next years or in the years to come, we do have a lot of challenges and opportunities. The challenges actually can be seen We do have a split in terms of whether Hong Kong return to China, whether some people still do not accept China in their mindset. And our education system in the past 20 years, to some extent, has faced a lot of fundamental problems. And that led to a group of our youth who became very radical. And even they talk about very radical ideas. They do not even have the identification of being Chinese. We need to address these issues very honestly and candidly. To face this problem, I think the introduction of what actually is the present China is very important. Because in Hong Kong, there still are a substantial portion of people whose understanding of China remains in maybe 1960s, 1980s, and even they know that China has a lot of development, huge development. They are not happy because they, in their heart, the motherland. So we need to do a lot of work in terms of that, and I think it got something to do with the education system. On the other hand, Hong Kong is facing challenges and opportunities while China is moving this Belt and Road Initiative, including this 9+2 concept in southern China. Hong Kong has a very, very big niche in terms of rule of law, of international financial system, low tax, etc. We are very competitive economically. But the point is, we need to grasp this opportunity. If people's mindset cannot be tweaked to jump into this economic train of China, then Hong Kong may be left behind. So we are happy. We're happy that we survive, but we cannot be too optimistic just to stay for the as exactly as where we are, because the world is changing. China is changing very rapidly, and as a special administrative region, both political, economic, and social side, we need to fully understand the opportunity brought by China.
I have to bring in Mr. Yang here, sitting in Beijing studio.
Regarding to the debate about one China system, I think it's out of the question. That is the must for the Hong Kong's future one country two system. But regarding to the debate on this issue, I think we should look at this issue by that way. Say, number one, historically, people in Hong Kong and people in the mainland are making history, making very unique history. Actually, the one country two system is a governance innovation. Now there's too many people talk about innovation, but I think one country system practice and the creation of a one country two systems are the greatest innovation.
But the question is, will the education about this possibility that people understand better about the mainland, that people understand that we have one identity now, will that be fast enough, efficient enough for Hong Kong to catch up, as you said, the train?
So if we offer a very objective picture, we would not just say only the good things. We also need to say what kind of weaknesses maybe the present Chinese system may have. Like Hong Kong has many, like we have a very strong system of rule of law and financial system. But Hong Kong also faces certain kind of weaknesses. Our youth may not be able to grasp the international perspective as well as the national perspective on a very, very objective arena. That is what we want our youth to be trained in the future, because the whole world is changing, and we cannot just isolate Hong Kong as just one region. We have to make full use of what is happening in China with our neighboring regions and provinces, as well as we have to maintain our international eyesight. How other countries may look for opportunities in China through the bridge or window in Hong Kong. And I received so many international students from other parts of the world. They would like to make use of the status of Hong Kong to go into China to look for their dream. Why why not the youth of Hong Kong?
The opportunity for the youth to travel to the mainland to better understand the Chinese civilization, Chinese history, that's very important. But look at what we did the last 20 years. And our education curriculum reform make Chinese history courses non-compulsory. That's a big wrong. And then we need to educate our kids about Chinese history, to know Chinese civilization, so they have culturally and historically, politically identified with the motherland. That's very important. And secondly, we need to understand Hong Kong is a very international society and the former colonies of Britain. And then they have a lot of exposures to the Western systems. And then actually after Hong Kong's return to Chinese sovereignties, the constitutional reform encountered a lot of problems. And that's another source of frustration for young people. I think, every day I see these cases, the youth people, why they develop such a strong sentiment, do not want to be identified with the mainland, because they simply consider national identity is the brainwash being mainlandized, and so make Hong Kong part of mainland. I think that's not true.
All right,
Hong Kong,
Mr. Yang.
under the current one country, two systems, we still have a lot of high degree autonomies, and we can create some unique systems which have a dual advantage. We enjoyed being one country with the mainland, but also have the advantage linking with the rest of the world.
Okay, Mr. Yang here in Beijing, you have patiently listened to your two other colleagues in Hong Kong. We need to give everybody a chance to talk, even on this program, of course. So, Mr. Yang, what about that? When you heard the arguments from your two Hong Kong colleagues, particularly the challenges they talk about over and over again, do you think there is a quick fix?
Recently, the imbalance development, the imbalance, that is the key word. Mainland has been growing faster than Hong Kong, true. And the shortcut for the solution lies in the balance of the opportunities. Mainland should open more opportunities to the young generation in Hong Kong and vice versa.
And you mean it's not?
Not enough now.
What do you think are some of the things that can be done in order to achieve that?
Well,
you say opened, not enough. What can be done in order to open enough?
Well, mainland's economy is much more diversified than the one in Hong Kong. That means the job opportunities in mainland is greater than in Hong Kong. So I think the authorities in mainland should get a wider openness, including the job opportunities to young people in Hong Kong through the basic people-to-people exchanges, through education, culture, and job exchanges. And I think the one country, two system policy and the regime can be implemented better than now.
Dr. Lang, only through support from the mainland will things be changed?
More. Well, we have to talk, we just talk about mindset, but of course livelihood issue is the issues we need to deal with, like housing problem, elderly retirement, and then job opportunity, and also opportunity for create one's business dreams. For all these, actually, it should be dealt with in parallel. In Hong Kong, we have been discussing, debating, and fighting for improvement of these livelihood issues in the past 20 years. I think Hong Kong is not a perfect place, as we need to maintain the low tax system and a capitalist system. We might not have the same kind of advantages like other places like welfare state. However, I think Hong Kong has made a lot of efforts because we are lucky enough to have huge surplus. And I do think in the next 10 years at least, the government can really spend a lot more money to reduce this kind of social problem, to narrow the disparity between the rich and the poor. However, we would like to preserve our existing system, which is good, which make us competitive, which make us an international city. Like we have to remain as bilingual system, we preserve our legal system, the rule of law. We need to preserve low tax system, free economy. This actually, I think we need to introduce broadly to our youth. I truly think that problems have been mentioned, but niche have not been mentioned. Hong Kong is not perfect. The future government need to spend more money, also need to think of how to earn more money.
And you're watching World Insight with Tian Wei, coming to you on CGTN here in Beijing. Still to come on our program. As part of our series Trailblazing Hong Kong Women, we speak with Annie Wu, who established the first joint venture company in China. What can the young people of Hong Kong today learn from her experience? Welcome back. You're watching World Insight with Tian Wei, coming to you Monday to Friday on CGTN. The past few decades have witnessed tremendous change for Hong Kong and the mainland. People have thrived and weathered it to produce a range of personal stories. As we approach the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China, we have conducted a series of exclusive interviews with 3 trailblazing women from the Hong Kong SAR. Today, we bring you the story of Annie Wu, who shares her experience in the past few decades as a businesswoman. We sat down with her in her Beijing office, talking about she has established Beijing Air Catering Limited, the first joint venture company in China. Annie, welcome to CGTN.
Thank you very much, Tian Wei.
After talking to you many years during the Liang Hui, this is the very first time that we sit down to talk about your stories.
Thank you.
1979, you, before many people in Hong Kong, already came to the mainland. What was it about?
Actually, I first came to the mainland in 1978, invited by the late Mr. Deng Xiaoping. They were trying to have an open door policy. So 1978, December the 12th, I remember correctly, I first entered mainland from Hong Kong to Luohu and then Guangzhou, and then we took a small plane to Chengdu. And that opened my eyes about learning our country.
What was that occasion about?
Because Deng Xiaoping wanted the Hong Kong Chinese to see how we can serve the open door policy. So in order to do things properly, we are supposed to come and take a look and see the opportunities and how we can help to open up the country. We knew it's going to be a difference between the lifestyle and the method of approach of doing things. And I was ready to understand how we can get things done. And it's the first time I tried to come into the country to take a look at what is the present status. So I was really ready for anything exciting, and I think I'm trying to be adventurous.
So it seems that you're trying to build a bridge between the mainland and Hong Kong at the time, bringing the overall modern company onto the mainland, establishing the first ever joint venture here on the mainland after decades of planned economy is certainly very impressive.
So in 1979, when we were invited by Sin Marshal in Hong Kong, Mr. Wang Kong said, Mr. Wu, we want you to go to Beijing and to meet the people from CAC because they wanted to do some joint venture. So I volunteered to go with my father, and we could not speak any Putonghua, but I think it's very important. We are Chinese. We want to do something to serve our country. And I think it's very important when you think alike and try to do things on the same platform and try to do things trying to be very effective. I think that's more important than the language. And there's no barrier when you try to work things together.
But at the very beginning of establishing that joint venture, I understand there has been a lot of challenges that you have to overcome together at the time with those from the mainland.
When I first came to talk to the cadres, that they sent to talk to me in the Beijing hotel. Only 2 were there, and they were smoking the cigarettes in my face. I thought that's very interesting because I have only 2 chairs for them to sit, and I was sitting on my bed to discuss business. They told me they only have a chance to give me 4 years of a job. I said 4 years, I can't get my return on investment. It's 5 years. So I said the best thing is, why don't we 4 plus 4 is 8 years. 8 is a lucky number. And then starting from the 4th year,
and they agreed?
They have to listen to my explanation first. And I said, starting from 5th year, I sell 10% back to you. 6th year, 10%, 7th year, 10%. By the end of the 8th year, all the 49% I sell it back to you. And then you make more money because you get the dividend more as the years later on in the business.
So, Annie, you were a tough negotiator.
Well, I was very simple and direct to the point because I have no legal advisor. I was only by myself, and I was talking to 2 people who are the characters, and they have not been talking business since 1949. So I have to rethink about how I can explain things simply to people who have not been in the business field for the last 50 years. And I think it's very important to have the trust first. Then they can convince themselves, and they have to report to their leaders.
How did you establish the trust?
I think it's very important to let people know exactly what you're thinking, exactly what is your approach, and why you have that line of thinking. And since we are Chinese from Hong Kong, we just tell them we're here to help to do something for the open door policy. As there's nothing behind there's no hidden agenda.
Were you nervous? Because this is, as we said many times, the very first time to do something like this.
I enjoy very much because I never feel any nervous in doing things in any unknown areas. But I think it's very important to convince people that we can work together along the same thinking and to have a trust between one another first before we can do things.
Right. But of course, eventually the contract would not be an easy document to draw. I understand you have to work on it a lot.
Yeah, because at that time they only have 14 principles about the guidelines of how to do a joint venture. So we can't sign anything.
Very general.
Very general principle is the guidelines. Then we translated our Hong Kong company laws and memorandum of articles, certificate of incorporation from English to Chinese. Of course, it's Hong Kong Cantonese Chinese. And we took all the Cantonese Chinese, the whole lot, to Beijing to check with our CAC people. And eventually, by November 1979, our documents are still under review. So can you do something for 6 months and open up the flat kitchen? So my father said, well, let's see how we can do a roundabout way, because we have no joint venture, we have no agreement, we have no mandate and no letter. And my father said, we are Chinese, we'd like to do something to help the country. So I shake hands with you, and then we go back and cover up our 5 million Hong Kong dollars first.
So that is one handshake.
Just one handshake, and then my father went back to Hong Kong. We actually got the 5 million Hong Kong dollars. Part of it is from my father's, part of it was from the companies who asked to come to join with us on the joint venture. Then we ordered the equipment by end of November, because if we don't order equipment, the shipment cannot be on time to send to Beijing, because some equipment has to be ordered from USA. Some of them can make in Hong Kong. And then we started to look to set up the flat kitchen to do the reconstruction.
As business people, without contract, without agreement, without the signing, without lawyers' involvement, were you concerned about what ifs? Where does the trust come from?
My father trusted Deng Xiaoping's words.
As simple as that?
Just as simple as that, because we have no relationship in any what we call government officials. The only thing was my father read Deng Xiaoping's comments, and he said, well, China has to open up because it needs an open door policy.
And your father had a word with Mr. Deng Xiaoping before
Never.
that?
No.
Never?
Never.
But really trust him
as
a leader?
As a leader, because he has that charisma. When he promised you something, we felt that he would try to get things done. Because we met the late Mr. Xi Jinping in Hong Kong, when he came through Hong Kong in January 1979. And he asked my father, oh, Mr. Wu, you should come to see me in Guangdong. I'm running the Guangdong province. Come and do some business. So that was the first time we were able to meet a government official.
1979 to today, decades passed. The mainland is different, Hong Kong is different. What do you make of this process for you to grow as an entrepreneur from Hong Kong and as a woman coming from Hong Kong, work on this initiative on your own?
Well, I'm very fortunate. My father never treated me as a daughter. He treated me as a person he wants to train for business. It's not the gender issue, it's how you think, how you react to business situations, and how you can consider to have the right business partners. So when I first go about business with our counterparts, I never considered myself as a woman, but I have to consider how I can convince them that we can work for a long-term relationship. It's not a short-term business. And when we came to the mainland, our thought was not business first, but country first. We want to serve the country for the open door policy. At the same time, we don't want to lose our own investment because it's our own money. It's not borrowings from the bank. So if the business is successful, we can also prove an example to foreign investors too. So we try our best to understand I would use the word ideology, because I was brought and educated in Hong Kong. So my education is Westernization education, but at the same time we learn about Chinese history and Chinese culture because we are bilingual. And so we can think on two different ways. In mainland China, we think about how we can work with our counterparts because we knew they have a new way of running the country since 1949 because it's a new China. So we have to think along the thinking process to discuss issues. At the same time, from Hong Kong, we have to protect our investment, how to see that we can steer the business properly. So it's very interesting. It's a way of philosophy.
It is very
psychology.
interesting because over the decades, you see the relationship between the mainland and Hong Kong have changed so much. Do you think any of the things that you have done, you've learned, could be of reference to what is going on right now?
So in between those 30-odd years, I think we have been able to develop a lot of trust and also sharing information for cities like Beijing and other areas to develop their practices, business practices, and have understanding of business ethics. It's not easy.
But you know, having talked about all of this, China's mainland changed so much. It is aspired to be to the top of the world. Do you see a different kinds of exchange that is going on now between the mainland and Hong Kong?
And I'm very happy to see the 30-odd years we have seen our country to develop progress of 100 years, a century. That was what I expected within my traveling back and forth, because I can see the drive, the vitality, and the education of the people living in the mainland. And of course, for people who have not been able to travel inside the country, they are shocked, and they are confused, and they are a little bit what we call concerned. But if they can come to the mainland, I think they would want to work to be a part to share in this development. So when we first came here, we were really bringing in a lot of new know-how and knowledge. Nowadays, I think Hong Kong, our role is to serve as a platform to assist all the state-owned enterprises or the private entrepreneurs to use Hong Kong as the platform to do business globally and to practice global practices.
Not only that, you're also helping young people in Hong Kong to really understand the culture of the mainland and the culture of China as a whole. I understand it takes a lot of effort.
It does, because I started up the Education Foundation in Hong Kong in 1998. So from 1998 until the year 2007, I personally, together with some friends, sponsored 10,000 students to come to the mainland, not with any government funding. The parents will pay 2,500 Hong Kong dollars per person. We sponsor 3,500 per person. And then we took them to come to see the raising of the flag at 3:30 in the morning, and then go to the grave of the people to listen to one of the leaders to say, well, you are the young people from Hong Kong, you have to serve Hong Kong and to serve the country and learn well, education. And I think it's very good to implant a new way of thinking to these young people, because up to now, they are already in their 30s. And some of them, they met me when I went through the immigration. They said, oh, well, we went with you, we never forget our trip. And now they're serving in the police. They're serving in teachers, and whenever we met them, they said, well, this is the most important turning point in our life.
Did they explain why they say that?
Because they never imagined they can come to Tiananmen Square and watch raising of the flag. They never imagined they can come to enter the grave of the people. To them, it's a complete, I would say, culture shock. But I think it's very important to give young people a chance to open up their eyes when they're in the teens. And so since then, I also established a school in Hong Kong because I need a platform to continue my way of educating young people to serve not only Hong Kong, but to serve our country, to be the future leaders.
Many say that you have this very typical Hong Kong spirit, the can-do spirit. And from your story, many say this is exactly what people should have in mind these days in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think in our days, when we were brought up in Hong Kong was very poor, but we thought that any difficulty is a way for you to meet the challenge and overcome the difficulties. And you never say no to difficulties. So in my lifetime, my father always gave me a lot of chance to overcome things that we thought that we can never overcome, such as like working in Expo 70 in Osaka, just right after my graduation from university. So I worked from about 8 in the morning until 10 at night time, 7 days a week. And then I was working in Japan. I could not even speak a word of Japanese, but I can read body language. I can communicate with people.
Do you tell the young people in Hong Kong about your stories?
I did. I told them, I say, if you have difficulties, think of how to overcome the difficulty. They'll say, well, I can't do it. But they say, well, what can I do? And how I can get things done. I think that's a very important motto for myself.
A lot of your friends and your colleagues have been waiting for you outside this interview room. Yeah. Shall we invite them in?
Please do.
Okay, let's
meet them.
Please come in. 你们好，你们好。
小马，这么多年辛苦你了，谢谢。Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you too. 哎，你好，你好。哎，
吴小姐你好，
你好，
身体挺好的。
谢谢你好，谢谢你好。
您来了，每次您来，公司都到底下我们厨房视察视察。今儿您还去吗？
这跟你去嘛。
好
，Let's go.
Thank you.
这边请。
Let's go and get and change our uniform first.
Okay, great. Hygiene very important, huh, Miss Wu?
Very important. We have to have the right uniform and also go through the sterilization first.
All right.
Yeah,
so how often do you come and visit the factory?
Well, whenever I come to Beijing for meetings, then we also come here to visit.
I need to wear the hat as well. Okay. All right.
Because we want to make sure that we don't have any the head dropping out.
Okay. Okay.
Now we have to go through the. Let's go into the place for the sterilization.
All right. This is the place.
Yeah.
Do we need to open it?
We need to open it. All right.
Come in first. Yeah. Now we are all clean.
Yeah. All clean and
to
also.
get rid of the dust.
Yeah.
This way.
Okay. Let's go through.
Baking area. A lot of already going on here.
This is the German, especially for the Lufthansa Airlines.
I see.
And they like the rye bread. About 30 of these.
30 of these.
Yeah, every day for the.
Every day.
Yeah. This is all imported from Europe.
I see.
Especially for the Lufthansa Airlines.
Okay.
And these are all the other raw materials too. Copper nickel and the others are all imported.
I see. 这些都是咱们这些。And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try World Insight with Tian Wei, CGTN in your search engine, or check out our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on World Insight with Tian Wei team, thanks for watching. Tune in again next time for insights across China and around the world. Good night.